Hello everyone and welcome back to Metra, and we got ourselves a new studio up in here. It's kind of scuffed, but it's new, baby! It's new!
I was gonna say it is absolutely scuffed. Well, as you guys already know, I'm President and Secretary of Metra, and this is
the CEO and Chairman, Derek Boyd.
And so we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna run into it. So honestly, guys, there's a couple of things that we want to go ahead and do. We're gonna kind of fast forward over doing updates, and we're just gonna include the updates in all of August this time around, because everything has been a cluster for us.
Yeah,
it's probably the best way to answer
from the last video. With my hands up, was last video to basically roughly about 10 days into August. All of it just kind of intermingled, so there really isn't much of an update as there is. It's a continuation. So yeah. All the stuff we have for this month is still piggybacking off of basically the last video. Nothing really changed. We just have more stuff added to it.
So I guess we'll start off kind of by the house numbers, because that's going to be the easiest way for us to keep up with it. So let's go ahead and let's start off with unit 104. So obviously, as you guys remember from the last video, the people completely skipped town. They ran off. They went from there. We had that whole issue with the camper being placed in front of there. That's gone, and the lady that was there admitted to throwing the tires in our yard. Surprise, surprise, she didn't clean it up. So now we're seeking legal charges against her and pressing them against her as soon as we can. Well, the next thing was
actually tying that in. So once again, this is where we kind of have an issue, because we can't even go just by unit numbers, because 104 also led into 108. Because if you remember...
I'm sorry. I just remember. We cleaned out 104 this month, too. Yeah. I completely forgot about that. Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm well aware. So, with 104, what had happened, if you don't remember from the last video to now, basically there was the issue of the previous tenant who trashed 104 and 108, and so we got her out of there. She basically skipped town. Then we had the new lady who basically just plopped her camper on our property. We made a temporary agreement with her and the lady at 108, which was honestly the dumbest deal possible for both of them, because basically we put all the responsibility of somebody else's actions, so 104's actions was on 108, and she accepted it. So if 104 didn't perform, then the lady at 108 and the lady at 104 were all getting kicked out. So that's exactly what happened. So we had a final, basically nail in the coffin, because before we had like a series of events that were just annoying, but nothing concrete to where we can get 108 out. Well, with the fact that she agreed to the lady that was going to clean out 104, the camper lady, and she didn't follow through with the cleanup, we finally had the justification, because she had already agreed to it via text, to kick them out as well. So that's why we're saying it's kind of a continuation from last month. So we did finally, to wrap the whole situation up, the original 104 tenant who trashed 104 and 108 skipped town and is gone. The newer-ish 104 tenant, who was basically the lady who plopped the camper on the property and was going to clean out 104 and the tires and all the other stuff, she didn't perform. She skipped town, doesn't return any of our phone calls. And because of that, the 108 lady, who actually was paying on time, was paid up, actually, and everything was going kind of decent with them. We were just getting annoyed with them because of all the other circumstances. Well, they're obviously gone as well, because once again, they were tied into this whole series. So,
any potential tenants watching this, let me just give you guys a forewarning here from the landlord side. You yourself may be a perfectly fine, decent tenant. Your company that you have around you, if they create enough issues for your landlord, the landlord's just wanting to get rid of all of it. So please pay attention to the company that you're bringing around your facility and the place that you're renting, because you yourself are taking responsibility for them directly, like they did, or indirectly.
Yeah, you're guilty by association, pretty much. Yeah. So if your friends and family come over and start trashing things like the park or your individual unit, then obviously you have to take responsibility for it, because you allowed them on the property. And that's effectively what happened here. This lady allowed somebody. She took, once again, responsibility for her actions. Her inaction was also an action, and that led to obviously her being removed as well.
So with 104, we then obviously, Derek and I, This is the unfortunate thing about being the landlord. We had to go out there and we had to go clean it up. We took care of everything. We cleaned everything out. We worked out a good deal with the people over at 108, gave them plenty of time to leave. They followed through on their agreement. They honored everything, so we have no issues or no problems with them. After we finished cleaning out 104, this is where the fun starts. So well,
specifically when it came to the clean out of 104, we have like 1 or 2 videos we'll show kind of in the middle here. It wasn't really like a while we were in the process, it was more like while we took a break. Just to give you a quick rundown, we had to rip out the carpets because it was the same dog crap riddled throughout the entire home. We had to basically wipe down all counters, the floors, even walls. I mean, it was just an absolute mess in that house. And so we also threw out all the furniture, and the entire home was just, I mean,
trashed,
riddled with fleas and cockroaches. We had to throw out the fridge because, if you don't know, cockroaches, like the #1 place they go is basically in the back side or in the freezer section because it's insulated. So they stay warm in there. So fridges and microwaves get just murdered with cockroach eggs.
Well, also the problem with that fridge was too is all the fly and maggot eggs that were all over the place too. So there was it just usually you can save a fridge, and honestly, I'll be straightforward. That fridge could have been saved.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't willing to dump the 6 hours into it to do it.
He didn't want to deal with it, and I don't really blame him for it. So we just trashed it for the most part. It's in the backyard of the mobile home. So if somebody else comes along and wants to use it, we told him it works. It's just riddled with shit. So we wound up getting exterminators out there to take care of that. But outside of that, really it was just the fact that it was just a lot of furniture. So we wound up having to make 2 full loads of hauling everything in the truck and a enclosed trailer, about 14-foot trailer, and just take it off to a dump and throw it over. And
almost over the course of like 3 days.
Yeah, and while also cleaning it up and then securing it to an extent. We put up some plexiglass windows, as well as we pretty much figured out the finagling of the doors, wedging some stuff here and there to make sure it was secure. People wouldn't come in there and break in and do more damage. So that was the whole thing of what happened with 104.
So to wrap up what kind of happened next, I then took pictures. Obviously the house wasn't in that great of a condition as far as like cosmetically. Functionally, the house was actually perfect. Everything was fine. The only thing that was technically, I'll be honest, it was in violation of the Landlord-Tenant Act, is that we didn't have windows on the property itself, and we had full intent of getting those windows up, but because of the fact that our contractor was still delayed with 118 or Bamboo House, we just sat there and put up like basically holder plexiglass for the time being and started advertising it early. Well, here's the thing that you guys are going to learn. If you're dealing with properties that don't look cosmetically pretty, you will get ransacked with idiots who don't know the law, who don't know what they're talking about, who haven't even read the Landlord-Tenant Act and have no clue what the requirements or what the ramifications are. I really should have taken a video of this, but I had probably over... Man, I think I was going over it with you. Like, I had probably about 30 different comments from people who had no clue what they were talking about, and then were threatening to get DHEC out there. Here's the best thing you can do with them. Explain to them why they're wrong, and you don't have to be nice, because the thing is that they're sitting there and they're trying to accuse you of something that you're not doing. Explain to them why they're wrong. Welcome them to bring anybody out there that they wish, and then continue working with the people. Within like 28 hours of us having this property advertised, we couldn't answer all the messages. There was not enough time in the day to talk with everyone, because we put it up very fair price, $500 a month, $0 security deposit, $50 background check, $30 background check, and $50 per month for pet fee. Very reasonable price. We know we were the absolute cheapest in the entire area.
Yeah, to give you a rough idea of what that means, we at $500 for an individual unit, so like an actual home with your own little yard around it. The equivalent pricing of an apartment in this area, so like a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, is roughly $850 to $1,000. So we were roughly half of the cost of an apartment, and we gave you the full home and some yardage. And
yes, the home wasn't pretty, but in our agreement, we would allow the tenant to make any cosmetic repairs that they want, so that way they could make it pretty. And so we were trying to be very fair about it. I was being bombarded with all these negativities. He was getting calls like, "You guys are crazy. You'll never get it for this price." I'm like, "Cool, thanks for the information. I have more people to answer than deal with you." And so what was funny was that these angry Facebook like moms or whatever the hell they are sat there and actually got DHEC out on us. And you know what DHEC did? Nothing wrong here.
Yeah, nothing wrong. That's the thing I love about DHEC. People throw DHEC at you like it's going to be an instant shutdown.
Or like you're going to get, like, they were like, like one of them was like, put this comment where they took a screenshot of the reporting form that any citizen could do. Like, you know what this is? You know what this? Yes, I do. Please fill it out. I welcome it. I'll also make sure to inform them that you're doing this out of spite because of a Facebook comment.
Yeah, so to give you an idea of what DHEC does, right? So it's like any other governmental agency. There's no real immediate shutdowns. Like if you see a restaurant that has like a rat in it or some cockroaches or something, they don't just shut the place down for the most part instantly. What they do is they come out and inspect it, and they give you a reasonable time frame to take care of the problem if they do find a problem. Well, they came out, and once again they saw that It's relatively habitable. Everything is there. The only issue is we just gotta get the windows put in place, which we've already told in the advertising that the windows will be put in place by the time of move-in.
And the funniest thing is, you know, the one thing that they did bring up, those tires that a lady dumped all over our property. It's like, you can't have more than 120 tires. Well, luckily this stack here is only about 80 tires.
Yeah, we
she was supposed to be cleaning them up.
Yeah, so we were already. So even DHEC was like, "Well, you guys are already good, so we don't have any problems."
Yeah,
and then they also apparently had given them the heads up, I guess from our last video or something. I don't know how anybody else would have known.
We got some hate watchers, baby.
Yeah, hate watchers, about how we had the geyser of septic poop that flew out of the septic tank, and DHEC was like, okay, following up on the questions on it, saying, okay, well, where is the exploding septic tank? Where is the residue of it? Can you locate the septic so we can go ahead and get an inspector out there and isolate it and then see what we need to do to fix it and pass it over to the owners? Well, the people, I guess, were just like, oh, well, we don't know. We just saw that there was a septic tank that erupted. And they said, what do you mean you don't know? If you saw an exploding septic tank, one, you wouldn't forget where it was, and two, there would be residue on the ground and a rancid smell. It would be there. You can't miss it. And so they said, DHEC, the lady literally told me, disregard it. I'm just passing it over. So if you ever happen to be on the property and you see something like that, go ahead and take care of it. But we turned a blind eye because it's not something we have to worry about. Because it's irregardless news.
And the funniest thing is, too, guys, is that in 48 hours, we had over 14 plus applicants, a multitude of people trying to visit the property, and then I took down all the Facebook ads to like try to mitigate it a little bit, and he was still being bombarded with calls for the Craigslist ones because I was just doing market research. I wanted to know where our best like bets were and everything else like that. So I was like, well, clearly that's not going to work. So then he was complaining to me to take down the ads across the board, even though we didn't have anybody on contract. I was like, okay,
because we were so backlogged with all the calls that had come in, all the emails, all the text messages, and just what we've already had put in place for, like you said, the background checks. So we had already had just a backlog of people who were just reaching out to us, getting into something. And I'm like, look, we just need to stop advertising for a moment, focus on what we've already got here, see if any of these applicants work, and then if we don't, go back to re-advertising. And we have just been knocking them out one by one, and so far we've got.
We found a really good tenant for 104. So one tenant, I apologize. One potential tenant was actually offering us a deal. I'm gonna be honest, it's okay, but it was terrible. Would you like to explain the math behind the deal?
It's okay, but there was definitely better. So we had quite a few tenants who were more than reasonably willing to wait for us to go ahead and put in floors or windows or doors or whatever, and then they would move in at the regular rate, 500 plus. This particular tenant, they instead offered to do the work on it. However, we would be responsible for paying for the materials, but they also wanted it at a reduced rent and keep it at that reduced rent. So, for example, they would pay, what was it, $425, I think? No, $400.
$400.
So there was $100 cheaper. We're responsible for materials, and it's going to stay $400 after they fix it. And we were like, I mean, it's not bad. We're basically paying $100 in labor every single month. The problem with it was
the deal breaker.
Well, there's a couple issues. One, the stuff they wanted us to fix was the doors, the windows, and somewhat of the floor. Just basically the subfloor. They would do the cosmetic portion. So basically, what they were offering to us is that they would do all the cosmetic stuff, which doesn't make any sense to us because we're not paying for cosmetic repairs. We don't mind paying for functional repairs because that's responsible as the landlord. But cosmetic repairs, we offer that to you. That's why it's a cheap rate, and we can sometimes credit you some discounts here and there if we need it done. But we're not paying materials for you to figure out how you want to fix up the home like you're going to live in it like it's your own personal home. You pay for it if it's your personal home then. So instead, we found another tenant who came down the road, and they offered us the more logical one, which is...
He was a bit aggressive about it, too. He kept saying, and I quote, "Give me a job. Tell me what you want. I'll do it."
This guy gave us the more logical approach, which is you're only responsible. Same basic deal. He's paying $425. The only difference is we're only responsible for the functional repairs. So that means anything in the landlord-tenant annex. So securing the home, walls, roof, floors, plumbing, electric. Basically, the stuff you need to be in the home to actually live. Everything cosmetic, labor, and material. All on them.
And let me clarify floors real quick. We're talking about weak floors. Having subfloor and no carpet or no like laminate or above floor, that's still perfectly fine.
Legally
if
possible.
You literally have nothing but subfloor in your property, still legally abided by the Landlord-Tenant Act. For those of you that need it, by the way, I have no problem. We'll link the Landlord-Tenant Act here for South Carolina for you guys to go over and read it. Any landlord should honestly spend, either your business partner or someone within the organization needs to spend some time going over it, because you will be amazed at how many things you can get rid of or get away with. A fun one, by the way, mold is considered optional. It is actually not required that you handle mold within the home. It's only a certain level of mold that at that point it becomes a problem.
It's actually funny. There's like a measurement of mold. So they would have to come out and basically test and see if it passes or fails the amount that you can legally have. So you can legally have, just like we can legally amount of certain tires, 120 on a property, you can legally have so many mold spores.
Yep.
Doesn't make any sense, but it's the law.
Landlord-Tenant Act.
Play within it.
But yeah, so that's pretty much everything in 104. So we found a good tenant on that. We got them on contract. We're doing the 425 rate with them. They went on ahead and paid us because they were staying in a motel and it was bleeding them.
Yeah, they were paying $60 a night, and we're charging a grand total of $425. So that comes out to, I don't even know. I mean, think about it, $60 a night times 10 nights is $600. So we're less than 10 days worth of pay for them.
Yeah.
But we're dramatically cheaper. So, of course, they took the deal and ran with it.
So, yeah, we got them on contract. We got everything agreed with. And now the beautiful thing for us is that we're actually going to be making money on the unit while it's being worked on. And that's where you have to kind of wait things out as a business owner or anything else.
Actually put more effort into it versus if you just pay out a contractor, because it's just another day at the office kind of thing.
One thing to mention, though, anytime you do these workers deals with any tenants, you make it very clear in the agreement that you have legal rights to come in and inspect the work at any time at your discretion as the landlord while it is being done.
The other thing too is to have a schedule, so you have a reason to show up. So for example, if you're supposed to have them have the windows replaced by, like, you know, the second week of September, for example, then when you go out the second week of September, you better see that those are done. Otherwise, they're just sitting there effectively squatting for a cheap rate. And also, it gives them a reason to keep in the back of their mind, oh, owner's coming, landlord's coming, whatever, I got to actually get around to working. So if you make the sporadic pop-ups like he's talking about, plus the scheduled pop-ups, it really keeps it in their mind, oh, okay, crap, I got to actually keep my stuff together here and work.
And so now we're moving on to the deal we actually made with 108. So obviously, as we already explained, the people left amicably. We actually have no problem with them. Like, it's done. We washed our hands clean of it. Everything is good and neutral. We agreed that if they left, obviously we wouldn't come back after them, try to sue them or hold them for liable for any damages. So it was an amicable split, and that's exactly what you want. The person that you got, interesting fella you got in there.
He's a nice dude. He's hard worker too, apparently. I didn't really know what to expect when we got into it, but you know, whatever. So 108, same god-awful condition as 104. The only difference is it's a much bigger home, so there was more god-awfulness to it. Well, we knew for a fact that if we just completely gone in there and renovated it and fixed it up ourselves, we could easily get minimum $850, if not $1,000 or more.
1,000 plus.
So the thing is that we were trying to figure out, well, what's the cheapest cost-effective route? Because, well, we don't want to put the money in because we're already bleeding hand over fist right now dealing with the other people that were paying for the loan that we got. So we thought, okay, well, here's an option. We can do the same thing that we were talking about, see if we can get somebody in there. But the main draw of it is kind of like what we did with the other guy with the 425. But this is all before we met this gentleman. We would instead give them the incentive that if they do the work, we will cap the total amount of rent that they'll have for 2 years. So basically, it's like we're prorating them in advance for 2 years. And so the gentleman came in and he's doing all the work, completely re-renovating the whole thing. He's already ripped out all the floors, all of it. I mean, literally the linoleum floors as well as the carpet. So all the stuff that was in the home, the entire home is completely not the same floor. It's all subfloor. And now he's already gone in and put in all new carpets. He's doing tile right now in one bathroom. He's going to do tile in the master bathroom. And then the rest of it's going to be like the linoleum, maybe vinyl flooring in the kitchen and laundry room. But he's putting in all brand new floors. He's also putting in ceiling fans in every room, because if you don't know, that the home didn't have any ceiling fans at all, so he's putting ceiling fans in every single bedroom, as well as the double extended dining room slash the like living room setup thing. It's like open floor plan. And then lastly, he's also fixing the air conditioning unit that we have no idea what the hell is actually wrong with it, but he's completely fixing that thing. And basically what we did is we prorated him on the air conditioning only. All the rest of it was that capped rate. So what we did is we capped him at $800 total for the 2 years, assuming he meets his schedule and he gets everything done in the time frame that he said he would.
So far, he's on it.
Oh yeah, he's very on it. And then, like I said, we prorated for the air conditioning, and so far what that's going to cost us is roughly, give or take, it's kind of changing here and there because he's finding other problems with it. But right now, we prorated him $300 up front for the first month, so it'll be $500 when he first pays to be able to move in. So first he has to get all the work done first, and then he can move in. That's how we have it set up right now. But when he does, instead of it being $800 for the first month, it'll be $500. And then there's a couple other little things he's been doing with the system, so like fixing some of the broken air vents and whatnot, and the duct work was hanging, and then there's like another issue with the wiring. So we've been also knocking off an additional $20 to $100 off the next couple months. So roughly speaking, it'll be anywhere between $500 to $800 total that'll be prorated over the course of the first year, and then either way after that it's still capped at $800 from that point forward. But generally speaking, dude has done an amazing job. He also is tasked with hauling all the crap off the property from the previous tenant, so he's also literally just cleaning everything up as well. It's not just remodel, it's the full cleanup. So all the yard stuff is cleaned up, and overall it's working out phenomenally. And he's been in there for just under 2 weeks, or maybe just at 2 weeks now, and it's in already the best condition it's been in since we've physically seen it.
Like we've said before, man, flexible, be flexible, hear people out on their deals, hear what they have to say. Obviously it helps that there's two of us, because him and I can communicate and like be I don't really like this deal because of XYZ reason, well I think this is good for this. Just being flexible and what you're working with can actually make you far more money in the long term than what it would have been if you try to be greedy about it and be like, no, this is what I wanted at and I'll do whatever it takes to get it up to it. Now moving on to the next one, where it should be talking about 118 because we're going in numerical order. However, that's actually the one that we have a lot to talk about. So we're skipping 118 for now, and we're actually moving to 124. Our favorite suspected meth tenants.
Yeah, so we'll be able to kind of shorten this one. Basically, there's kind of a couple things here that happened. Alright, so first off, as you know, we've already been having issues with them, especially with like the trash being thrown over and a whole bunch of other little things that we've just been getting on their case about. Well, we've just been waiting for one last thing to physically happen so we can just get rid of them, because they're the last headache we have in that entire park. Well, when we were doing the deal with 108 and they had to be out by August 10th, a couple days prior, so this was on Tuesday, or maybe it was Monday, we talked about it earlier, but either way, whatever day...
it was the 8th.
No, it wasn't the 8th, because that was the day that the
event
happened.
Okay, gotcha.
So, it was either the 9th we went out there or the 10th we went out there. But either way, we came out like a day or two later. Apparently, on the 8th, there was an event that I wasn't aware of until we got to the park the next day or the day after, where the cops basically came in rolling thunder, like 4 of them, and went to 124. There's an event that happened that we can't really talk about right now. At least we don't feel we should be talking about it, at least in this moment, until we can get more clarification. Maybe in the next video or on we can talk about it. But right now, basically, there was an event that happened at 124, and an arrest was made, not for what the event was initially for, but because our tenant violated probation, and specifically in the paperwork that I can't really go and disclose on, there was some items confiscated from the house, and specifically the thing that mattered to us about the confiscation was that there was drug paraphernalia, which basically just means things related to drug usage, and actual drug usable products, so things like glass pipes and any other little thing that
basically
you use.
Stuff that has like residue in it, like the grinders, whatever else.
I was gonna say
use.
anything
Dirty
you could basically
spoons.
use for like smoking weed, marijuana, or not marijuana, meth, or like cocaine or whatever. Any of those things that you would physically have, so like dirty spoons, things like that, needles, all those little general things, they was confiscated from this property, and that was the thing that we physically needed. So we got a picture of this paperwork, and once again we knew that our tenant had violated probation based off of this confiscation. So we literally went with this and ran with it, and we have now forced their hand and effectively given them a time frame in which they had to be moved out. And of course, if they aren't out, they're supposed to be out by tomorrow. Actually, the recording of this video is the 30th, so 31st, whatever day it is.
31st.
And they're supposed to be out tomorrow, which is the 1st, so we'll find out tomorrow if they actually do and give you the update the next month. If they don't, we then got to go through the standard eviction procedure, which luckily this doesn't apply towards the eviction moratorium because that's only if you can't pay, not for if you have an issue with damaging the
law.
Yeah, not if you have an issue with damaging the property or, like he says, the law. So this is a drug-related issue, and this actually can be filed technically almost under an emergency eviction if there's very specific context on that. But anyways, yeah, so 124 for the most part, we'll find out if it's completely wrapped up, because we shouldn't have any more issues, and then, like I said, we may have some more information regarding the actual reason the cops were there next month or in the future whenever we get a little bit more confirmation on it.
So with that being said, we're now moving on to the biggie. 118. Yep. So
this
bamboo house.
A roller coaster of
God, this is I'll be honest, 118 for us, what originally just became as an annoyance of incompetence with contractors, has really brought back into a humble perspective of separating the boys from the men when it comes to investing and getting things done. So I'm going to start off talking about 118. Actually, both of us are going to start off. We're going to talk about the reason for the contractor delays, because we finally got the full scope of what has happened with our contractor and everything else that was going on. So I'll let you kind of take over on this.
Pretty much, in a very condensed form, there was a split between, there was specifically two contractors that were working on it. They were kind of partners on it. And we paid one through an online invoicing system, and then they paid a portion of that to the other guy, and this guy was the more responsible, actual working one. The guy that took the invoice, he was basically, without beating around the bush,
useless. He was absolutely useless. He couldn't replace that water leak we were having. The other guy that has been doing the work and got the small portion of the money, sent him to go fix something that I could have done in 10 minutes.
I was going to say, so without beating around the bush, this guy was about as big of a bullshitter as you can physically be. The guy always overpromised and never delivered.
Actually,
never delivered. He always said he would do something, and then we would have to get on him and be like, hey, you said you were going to do this. Has it been done? Well, yes, it's getting done.
The problem is, we were on the other guy who was doing things, not realizing that it was this guy that he was trying to get to help him, and nothing was happening.
So basically, what wound up happening is it got to a boiling point where we went just absolutely nuts on the guy that we had more of a direct contact with, who was actually getting work done. And we gave him an ultimatum saying if it's not certain things aren't done by certain dates, then we're either charging back or we're kicking them off the job. We got other contractors involved, all this sort of stuff. So then they started getting a little bit of stuff done. We started seeing some actual progress. Well, then we noticed when we went out there physically that the actual progress was being done by the guy that we were talking to. And we asked him, we're like, hey, well, why is it the last 2 times we've been out here, it's only been you working? Where's the other gentleman? And he was like, oh, yeah, I'm done with that guy. And then he gave us basically the full rundown, condensed short and form of this. The guy pretty much took most of the money that we sent through the invoice.
Gotta go gamble
and gambled it all away.
Yeah. So yeah, all the money that was supposed to be going towards the materials, the repairs, the costs, and everything else, this motherfucker took off and gambled it.
Gambled it all away. Which explains why there were so many delays now. So like I said, basically he just got kicked off the job, and the guy that we were pretty much bitching out, he was the one that took full responsibility and took over everything. And so now we're paying him directly to do all the work, and there is nobody else involved. Now, unfortunately, because it's now a one-man job, it is taking a bit longer because, to be fair, it's one guy doing all the work. So that's where we kind of ran into the next snag, which was we started advertising 104, which led into this.
This is, it is a habit of mine. Like everything I've learned about real estate when it came with owner finance houses, because that's where I was very well versed. Anytime you get a property on contract, and anytime you're getting close to a closing date, so in the sense that getting repaired and everything else, that is a closing date. There's no difference there. We want to start advertising. So we started advertising this property as well alongside 104. The way we did is that we advertised 104 and then mentioned that as a secondary property and had it up on our website and whatnot. And we were also getting bombarded with that one. Well, we found a pair of tenants that were interested. They wanted to go ahead and move forward with it. We expressed to them multiple times, please go and check out the property prior towards agreeing or paying for anything, because they had to be out on the 25th, and we were sure the property would be ready
Based
by
off
then.
Of the general deadlines that we were getting,
And we were seeing good progress.
Yeah, we were
towards
told
that.
it should be pretty damn close.
Yeah, and so we agreed to go into contract with them. They were going to be paying.
Well, to be fair, they did physically go and look at the property about 3 days prior to actually being moved out of their other place, and they did approve of it. And so they saw the condition of it, and it's not 100% finished state. And they said, "Yeah, this is generally fine as long as it gets done." And we're like, "Yeah, it should be."
So then we sat there and we move on to our next thing, is that after we got them our contract, they were going to be paying $675 to us for that property.
No, $625.
I'm sorry, $625 on that property without any security deposit or whatever else. We were ready to go with it. I'm like, cool, this is awesome. Well, we get in there and after we agree to all this, we see that there's not enough work being done, and they start freaking out about it. Because I think one of them came up there the day before or something like that. Well, like, it was a weird transition of events.
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, we went.
Yeah, because they brought the moving van.
That's right.
The moving truck.
We sat. So Derek and I went out there to actually go and do the work ourselves to help the contractor. So the contractor's there.
No.
We
Prior
are
to
there.
that, they went out there with the moving truck like late as hell at night after the contractor. Like, remember I had replaced the door locks.
Yeah.
And they went and flipped out on me all throughout like 1 o'clock in the morning. And we're like, okay. So then I called you and said, hey, we're going out there super early in the morning.
Yes.
And we're going to help the contractor finish everything up. So we, in fact, went to bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning, woke up at like 8 and went out there and worked roughly 17 straight hours.
Yes, it was one of the, and I had 100+ degree fever, by the way. But the thing is that like we knew it had to be done, and our contractor was there too. It wasn't just us; he was there too. So we're sitting there, we're all doing this construction work, trying to get it done and whatnot, and we're getting pretty close to it. Then they come there with the moving van.
Yeah, this is roughly like 6 or 7 at night. So
yeah,
almost 10+ hours after we had originally gotten there, they come by again with the second time with the moving truck.
Now, here's what irritated me a lot, but I kept my mouth shut on it. So the guy was like, so it was just the guy that came, because it was a guy and a girl, like, tenants that we did have. It was just the guy that came, and he was looking around, he was like, dude, there's no windows here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, there is. And I literally had to actually, because he kept saying, no, there's not, look at them, they're all open. I had to go to a window, close it, to show him that there was windows in place everywhere.
He literally thought the like 5 windows we had open for airflow because it was hot as balls in there because it's, you know, the summer in South Carolina. He thought that they just had like 0 window glass in them.
Yes.
Like the panes themselves were empty. And we're like, you're actually stupid. No, dude, you can open and close. Window been invented since like 1700. Very smart technology.
And then he was getting he was getting mad and everything. So he's like, well, how are you guys, who do I need to talk to about getting compensated with this? And we're like, compensated for what? You knew the condition, you knew what was happening and everything else like that. I was like, no. I was like, you know what, here, how about this? So this is the original thing that we started doing, and this is very important for you to do. You kind of got to put people in their place, because obviously he was arguing like, this isn't ready, this isn't okay, like I have a dog and a child and blah blah blah. Be like, look dude, I'm sorry. I apologize that this property is not up to your standards. I apologize that you thought it was going to be something that it's not. We have an entire backlog of people ready to go. The only reason we went with you guys is because you were actually just the best price. If you do not, here's what I'm willing to do. Ask us any questions right now about what's going to get done, what's not going to get done, and what the condition of the property is going to be in. We'll answer everything. And if you don't feel like that's good enough to your standards, don't pay. You haven't paid yet. Just don't pay. It's fine. Like, we'll break the contract. We'll go from there. We'll let you off the hook, and we'll continue on. That was what I think kind of put them in their place, because then he started just asking about things. We told him plainly what we were going to do. And so all of it seemed resolved and fine. Everything looked great. Looked like we got the situation under control and handled.
Up until he says, oh, hey, I already paid for the electric to get turned on. Can we make sure that works tonight? And we're like, absolutely, because we paid to get the house rewired. So we go out there, go to the meter, flip it, go check it out. Roughly 65% of the home has no electric.
The hallway,
the bathroom,
and 2 outlets
in the master bedroom
were all that had electric.
That's it. So
and we went and tested everything.
That means
I apologize. The lights didn't work in the living room, but the half of the outlets did.
Yeah, they were like wonky voltages. So basically, we then stopped everything in terms of like the general construction and went straight to electric. And so we wound up having to borderline personally, us and the contractor, rewire a good section of the home with with actual 12.3, whatever the hell it is, 12.2, 12.3 Romex.
Yeah.
The actual line that you run, as well as we put in new breakers, wired all that crap up, and then we had to do the receptacles, the switches. We had to do these crazy junction box things that were. And this was
the hardest part
from the original manufacturer.
After, because I started talking with the dude, then Derek was talking with him, and we got everything situated. After doing that, and after we figured that out, because they didn't know yet, they hadn't seen it. Like, we just started testing everything ourselves, kind of behind their back, while he was out near the moving truck. After that, Derek and I had to make a quick decision, because now we were in violation of the Landlord-Tenant Act. Not having proper electric throughout the entire home is considered a code violation and is a problem. And what we decided to do is that we decided to offer them one of two deals. They could either take one or the other. So option number one is we would literally cover half of their costs for moving and like the U-Haul and whatnot for the previous day and today. We would cover half of it because that's just the right thing to do. Option number two is that we would knock their rent down to $375 for this month and every subsequent month after until we had all these problems resolved. Because I wasn't going to make a single promise again about us having it done by this specific time.
Basically, it gives us the incentive to get it done for them. Because obviously, we start losing money for every month that we don't have it done.
So they took the second option. We apologized to them. We explained everything to them. And we said, now, actually, yes, this is now what we're legal fault. What do you guys want to do? Let's handle this. Let's get this done. So what they ended up doing is they just took all the stuff. They moved their stuff into the home. They did pay the $375, moved everything into the home, and then we just had to work around it. That's exactly what we told them we would do. So that way that'd be fair. Now, with situations like this, the next thing that happened, we actually got everything figured out. Like, him and I both worked that 17-hour day together. Then I woke up, I went out there, I worked about a 12+ hour day with the contractor because he was having car trouble. So I went and picked him up and took him out there to keep working with me.
Yeah, and I was there for maybe about 4 hours.
Yeah, and then him and I flip-flopped where the next day I picked up the contractor, took him back out there, dropped him off, and then he was out there working with him, and we finally got pretty much everything resolved within that hardcore 3-day period. Which, by the way, keep in mind, once again, why I was saying this separates the boys from the men when it comes to investors and like making deals. I was working in 100+ degree fever. I was sick the entire time, and I was still out there doing what needed to be done. And obviously, him and I were both lack of sleep, lack of energy, lack of anything, trying to get this all to work. That's all we had to do. And this is sometimes the unfortunate thing, man. When you base your agreements and your promises to other people, like your tenants and whatnot, based off of somebody else being able to do something and accomplish something, this is the unfortunate thing when things don't go right. You have to take responsibility and then hold whoever else responsible after the fact. You have to do that because that's how you conduct good, honorable business. Otherwise, the thing is, yeah, sure, if you, I'll be honest, if you wanted to be a dick or anything else, we probably could have sat there and withheld the money. Hey, there's some complications. We're fixing it by all legal rights. We're in the process of fixing it. Hey, it's getting done. You can see all this work being done. You already approved of this because in our agreements it says that you approve of the condition of the property prior to signing the paperwork. So whatever condition it's in, they already approved it. Yes, we could sit there and we could hold them legally accountable for all of it and not do anything with it. It's bad business. It just is.
Well, don't worry, because we're throwing all that out the window anyways, because now they're asking for a partial refund so they can go move somewhere else, and I'm just like, I have no problem with that, because we already know if they're going to be an issue now, they're going to be an issue down the road.
Yes.
And we, like you said, we have a backlog of people. In fact, I got to go meet with one here soon who may be paying even more to get into it. So you know what? F it. Let's just move on. Bygones be bygones.
Now, we're going to move on to something completely different. We've now covered everything with the mobile home park and everything that's been going on and the disaster that Derek and I have been facing for this month. This month has just been grueling physical labor month for us. It has been awful. After Derek and I had talked about it, we made some changes to the lease. And we made some changes to our marketing strategy as well. The first change we made to the lease. I know this is going to sound a little weird, especially if there's any other investors out there that have been doing this for a while. Why do you put your tenants on a year lease? Now, this is an interesting question to ask because the thing is that here's what this means. This means that the entire terms, that means everything in the lease, all of it, everything written there is 100% set in stone for a year. Okay. Now, well, most people think, oh, well, it holds the tenant to it, and they have to sit there and pay that lease amount, otherwise you can go back and sue them for it. That's not true. The Landlord-Tenant Act actually clearly states that you can only go after that tenant for the amount of time lost that they should have been there. So say if somebody literally gets into your apartment day one, they sit there and they pay for 1 month, and then they bounce out on a 5-year lease. The next month they don't pay, they bounce out. Well, within that month time frame, you just find somebody else and you replace them. You can only charge them for the time that it was still vacant. Yep. That's it.
So basically, if it took you a month to get somebody else in there, you can only charge them for that month. You can't charge them for the other 4 years and 11 months.
And you also can't change the terms of the lease without their agreement as well. That's another thing.
The other big issue too is, there's the security that comes with the fact that, like you said, that you pretty much kind of lock somebody in for the price for a year. But you're also shooting yourself in the foot because you're locking them in for the price for the year. So if you wind up doing renovations while they're in there, or something happens and say the roof gets blown off or something, you get insurance, you put a new roof on, those tenants are still in there for that same price. Instead of you being like, hey, new roof, new price. Things like that. Water heater goes, well, can't give them a new charge for the water heater now. You put AC in there, can't charge them more for the AC until after that year. Then you renegotiate. So you get
trying to do otherwise is highly illegal, and you will lose in court every single time. Do not even try it.
It keeps you significantly more flexible for even like the deals that we're doing, where if they do the work, we can comp them here and there, make them charge more, make them pay less, whatever we got to do to be as wiggle room as possible. It also changes the terms for what if they get a different job, they don't work month to month anymore, or they get paid weekly like they normally do, and they were paying monthly, for example. We'll say they were like, hey, can we change it to weekly? Yes, you can legally. It's super easy. We just change the contract. Next month you start paying weekly. So you have a lot more flexibility with a lot of these things that otherwise you're just getting security for a year, give or take.
Now, because the thing is that on the yearly side for the landlord, it just makes no sense whatsoever. If you put it on monthly, literally, you can change the entire lease terms the next month, send them the paperwork, be like, hey, please sign this if you want to stay here. If you don't, I totally understand. That's acceptable. Understand I'm going to need you to leave. And go from there. You can literally raise the price on, it'd be absurd, but you could hypothetically raise the price on them every single month by $50 every month and be like, yep, next,
and the main thing is too is that once again this helps you with issues like what we're currently dealing with, the eviction moratorium, where you don't have to worry about them not paying. You can just legally evict them because it's the end of the term, it's the end of the lease. They're not getting evicted for non-payment, they're getting evicted because the lease is done with and they didn't sign a new one, so they're not legally allowed to be there anymore. They're a squatter. So you can actually get rid of people because they don't have the legal right to be in a home anymore. And so it makes it, easier once again to be flexible. Or once again, if you have other homes you want to move people into, you have the flexibility to just throw them in different houses because they're not locked in on one particular house at a certain price. So it's just way better.
We just didn't understand.
It comes with a lot more work, I'll say that, because you got to do a constant update here and there. But other than the issue of work, it's just a better all-around position.
And the thing is, what's so bizarre by it as well is that we just couldn't understand. The yearly lease just didn't make any sense to us. It hurts us more than it hurts them, because sure, tenants can ask for security or whatever else like that. But if you want security and you want to have things locked in, well, you better be paying a lot more upfront for that security because we have to cover ourselves. Now, the other thing that we went on ahead and we talked about, and this one's interesting, and we were actually talking about doing an entire segment on just our lease, and like why we structured it the way that we did, and maybe even offering it for like educational material for like a set price for you guys. One of the things that him and I were actually discussing is that what's the point of a security deposit?
Yeah, we talked about this briefly in the last video.
Now, this one we went even in more depth on it. Like, here's the thing, right? You don't own the security deposit. You can't use the security deposit unless they cause damage to your property, which then you have to use the security deposit to go for. And the thing is, too, is that why would you ever put
the security deposit is a lot of times considered just compensation, so you can't even sue for additional damages.
Yes. And so the other thing is, too, is like, why would you sit there and why would you take a security deposit that you're legally required to give back? You can only use it if there are damages. And if you're worried about the tenants, if you're worried about that particular tenant damaging your home, why are you letting them into your home?
Yeah.
Like, that would be the biggest question I would have. Like, the amount of money that we would make by use the security deposit as an advertising tool. Advertise like, hey, pay $500 and $500 security deposit, get in here. Or you can pay $0 and pay $0 security deposit and $600 a month every single month. You're good. Can't change it after you get in here, but you decide which one you want to do. Think about that. In 5 months, 5 months is all it takes for you to now get that $500 worth of security deposit. So if they do damage the property within that time, you already technically have a security deposit and have all legal rights to still go after them for more. Mm-hmm. Within that 5 months, you already get it covered. And then God forbid they last a year, 2 years, 3 years. You just banked multiple security deposits legally. And more without having to do anything else. It just doesn't make financial sense why the security deposit is a thing to me. Unless we're, let me preface that with one thing. Unless we were talking about these super nice homes, like these like beautiful like Greenville like lofts or things like that.
Brand new apartment complexes and you're trying to make them last for a while. I could understand those. Mm-hmm. But if it's like anything less than brand new or borderline perfect, it's kind of a dumb strategy. It just generally is. There's a better route of getting more income off of your investment by doing like he was talking about the $0 down option and just banking off of whatever you can and just calculating a reasonable time frame to get your security deposit. And then once again, like you said, you're already, that's the whole point of the background check and any other little, pre-thought that you're putting into it is you're not going to put somebody purposefully in there to damage it. And even then, you still have legal the legal protections of it where you can sue them if they do anything more. So your security deposit is basically the state, and your safety net is the extra income up front to then go with the state to go after them. So it's like you already have the security measures. What is the point of the security deposit? It's like the unnecessary middleman.
Yes.
Pretty much all it is.
And like the thing, like I said too, like don't get me wrong, man. Him and I have been in this business long enough. We know there are plenty of landlords who never give back security deposits, who sit there and pocket all of it, even if you do everything right. Hell, him and I literally were about to ready to go to court against one of ours back when we were in college for that exact reason. We know there's plenty of people that do that messed up garbage and everything else like that. But the thing is that why?
Yeah.
When you could just offer a no security deposit option and then just collect multiple legally without ever having to deal with potentially having to go to court and then having to defend yourself and do everything else. Because like, while most people, I will say this, I would probably say about 90% of people will never actually take you to court. Why risk the 10? Yeah. Why? It's not worth it. Just offer 2 options and then go from there. Or if you're too worried, just don't include them in.
That's pretty much it, except for
one other little thing. This is a little bit of drama. Yeah, this is a little bit of drama. Stick by your agreements. Whatever you and your tenant side, I don't care what is the problem, what is going on. You stick by your agreement. Both Derek and I have gotten in a bit of an argument with one of the actual good tenants that we have at the mobile home. Like, literally no problems whatsoever. I'm even going to be nice. I'm not even going to mention the unit number. Yeah. But there
is one particular tenant that he's not doing anything wrong. It's just obnoxiously annoying. He has the tiniest water leak in his toilet, right? And we explained to him that based on the condition of the home, you know, his isn't probably immaculate considered the rest of them.
Yes.
That if he wants anything done from this point forward, the $50 repair fee, which we've already explained to you guys. But basically, if there's an issue with the home, pay $50. We'll get the guy out there to fix whatever the hell the problem is, and it basically comes off the cost of what it is.
And if the tenant knows that they can get it fixed themselves for less than $50, they will handle it. You deal with less calls and less BS about maintenance.
Basically, there is this O-ring that sits on one of the nuts that go up underneath the tank, and it's just got the tiniest crack. I mean, it is the tiniest crack. So it is just a slow drip. I mean, like maybe one every minute. 45
it's
seconds.
A bit worse when you flush. I will say that.
So it gets a little pressure built up to it. So when the tank's filling up, it'll drip like one every 15 seconds. But if you're not actually flushing, so 99% of the day, it's like once a minute at best. And this dude has just been non-stop. Every time we're either at the park, near the park, or even if we're not, he calls us. He's like, "Can you please fix this toilet? Why can't you fix the toilet?" I'm like, "You haven't paid. Pay. Then we'll fix the toilet." He's like, "Why do I gotta pay?" I'm like, "Because everybody else has gotta pay. We can't be price discriminatory. If you sign the lease, if you want the thing fixed, pay. Otherwise, fix it yourself. It's a $2 part at Lowe's. Just go get somebody to get it. Take off the nut, put it in there, screw it back in, and you're gold. Why are you bothering us over this if you're really that irritated by do it?" And he just keeps crying about this $50 freaking fee over a toilet that's barely leaking. He's over here like, "Well, you guys are paying the water bill." I'm like, that is negligible. You're costing us maybe $2 every 2 months. You are not killing us over this. He's like, "Well, what about the floors?" Pay $50 and get the floors fixed. I don't care, man. We got other problems we got to deal with right now. Your toilet is literally not a good. We have another person. Their entire septic line collapsed at one point, and they had sewage going out the bottom of it.
Yep.
That was more of a priority than you having this tiny little leak that is not causing any real issues.
And so, the moral of the story here: put your foot down.
Yeah.
Don't cave. Don't sit there and listen to it. Don't look. You can pay $50 to get this fixed. Otherwise, you're going to be paying $100 to get it fixed and the floors when they come through.
Yeah.
We'll fix them
Yeah.
since you don't want to do it. But your cost is going to keep going up and up and up.
That's correct.
And in worst case scenario, because we do have the right in our lease, we'll force that fee on you. Go in there and fix it. And if you don't pay it, then it's considered a lack of your rent. Because the thing is too is that he was sitting there and he was like, "Well, nowhere else wouldn't sit there and do that, blah blah." You know what? You're more than welcome, because he would be on a year lease. You could break your lease with us. Go find a place at the price point that we're offering it to you at. Go.
Dude's
I
paying
welcome it.
$425 and have to pay an occasional $50 repair fee. The minimum cheapest thing I can find in the area is basically room rentals for $600.
Yep.
And he's crying over a $50 slightly leaky toilet. Dude. Like, we don't have time to be dealing with this. This is the stuff we have to laugh off and just be like, you're nuts. Go somewhere else right now.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so the last little tidbit of things, I'll kind of go through the last two things. One other little thing I'm just going to throw in there is Bank of America is trying to put this up the wall with all their little fees.
I forgot about that.
It's kind of a short little point. Basically, they have a fee for everything. Sending money, receiving money, looking at money,
Sending money from a Bank of America account to a Bank of America account costs $3.
That's so stupid.
We started using Bank of America, obviously, because we wanted a big branch bank on top of having a smaller one or whatever else. With originally Parks, then we switched over to South State. I'm going to be honest, guys. For any of you guys looking to get into business, no.
Dude, we got charged $10 to pull money out of it to pay another bill at another bank, so it's a bank to bank. They considered an ATM cash withdrawal fee. $10 freaking dollars. That's more than a what's it called? Cashier's check.
Yes.
Like, what the hell? Why are we paying $10? A regular bank ATM fee is like $3, $3.50. Why are we paying $10? And then it was like, if you don't keep your balance at a certain rate, daily balance, you get another $16. It's just...
Dude, we've been charged, I would probably guess, somewhere around $200+ in fees already for the 1 year that we've had it. And it's not like the regular things like overdraft or anything you'd actually
daily
reasonably
use.
expect.
It's just daily usage fees.
Because we were privileged for them to allow us to have
Every time
an
we send
account.
money to any of our investors or people we got to send money to, which we do, and of course some of our bills we pay, we want to be paying $1 to $3 depending on the size of the bill. It's ridiculous.
Our plan with Bank of America, just so you guys know, because the thing is, once you start building a rapport with a bank, you want to keep it for credit. That's actually the main thing. The millisecond we get a credit card from Bank of America for Metra, closing our accounts. We're not dealing with it.
Alright, so in the end, we just basically have our budget, which is a very short budget, thankfully, because I didn't feel like going through too much work to figure it out.
It's positive, right?
It's not,
positive.
It's never positive. So, basically...
Why can't it be HIV positive?
It's never positive. So basically, if you just wrap up all of what we currently got, you got to understand our budget is lower than normal because 108 didn't pay, 104 didn't pay, and soon 124 is not going to be paying because they're going to be gone, and then 118 is kind of hit or miss. So our budget right now is banking off of the tenants that are still there that we originally inherited that haven't done anything, they haven't moved any of that stuff. So it's just them plus the other tenants that we do have, and that would be the newer ones that we got for the $600. And so basically our budget is, roughly speaking, about $4,150 with all of, like I said, all the tenants that we currently have. And we also received, for now, we're adding into this, the $375, the credited amount that we talked about with 118. If we do a partial refund, then it will affect, obviously, this budget. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and include that $375. And then we also got an additional $100 from the people that we have going into 104. We did a prorated amount for like 5 or 6 days that they're going to be there. And then they're going to pay the regular $425 amount on the 3rd of every month. So that $100 was like the difference of the days. So we added all that in, and you get a total of $4,150. Now, with that being said, we did get really freaking lucky. I mean, really lucky in that we didn't pay the water bill this month. I don't exactly know what's going on with the water company. Water's still on, have no issues there. But I went to go pay the water bill on the 1st of this month, and there was no bill. It was $0. First of all, I didn't even have the account. They never gave me one. So I had to call in to get the account to even look at the bill. And then they said that the bill would be physically shipped to one of our homes that we have as the address on file. Haven't received anything. So then I go online to go look to pay the bill. She physically told me that the bill, you get the bill on the 1st, it's due by the 23rd or something like, no, 15th, and then by the 23rd or something like that, it'll just get shut off or whatever. Or, I don't remember the exact story. Anyways, I went on there on the 15th, still no bill. It's $0. I even screenshot it to make sure that if they try to charge me a late fee or they shut it off, I'll be like, no, I physically went and looked at it. There is no water bill. Now, good thing about that is that because there's no water bill, if we do want to be getting a bigger water bill, just 3 months of it or whatever, either way, because of the way our cycles work with our payments for our credit card, the Divvy card that we have, we can put that money onto the Divvy card and it won't actually be due until next month. So say it is $1,000, we won't actually pay that $1,000 until October 15th. So basically, water bill no factored in here at all. So with that being said, our only real debt this month was the mortgage payment, the investor payment, and a little bit of maintenance fees and a little bit of fees that we paid for the contractor. That's it. So our total budget,
and
I mean,
our blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, well, that was we lost money on that one. So our total debt was $5,064, which really isn't that bad. So well, actually, plus another $600 for fees and whatnot. And no, you're not doing this again. So basically, $600 additional on that. So we're negative, give or take. I gotta do some quick math here. Give or take about $1,500. I don't feel like getting the exact numbers in there, but you can do the math yourself and have it completely right. It looks like it's $1,494. I could be wrong on that. But basically, it's pretty much $1,500 flat negative. I want to clarify that it's not positive. We're still negative on this. So we're still having to pay out of pocket. However, that's actually really good news because you got to remember, I just went over this. don't have any money coming in for 108 right now. We should be theoretically getting $500 this first month based on the credit that we have. We are getting a full 425 off of 104. We should theoretically be getting around something on 118, maybe 6 something, whatever it is, depending on whatever tenant we wind up having in there. And then when we get 124 moved out and then we get somebody else in there, we should theoretically be getting another 425 from them. So that'll change our budget by like $2,000 and some change, depending on what numbers we actually get people on. And then of course, the one other little caveat, the other little bit of news, which we didn't really necessarily want to include as a full-on point, but it's up in the air. Basically, the 12th mobile, the original one that we were supposed to be getting when we first signed on to the contract to get the entire mobile home part, the one that's been overly delayed, the one that we found out a couple months ago that had a permit pulled on it that we never got it actually moved, and then there's a moving company and the whole big issue between the payments and whether the previous owner actually paid him, and then there was like some lot issue, and then there's like a whole nother person who's involved with like the actual logistics. It's an absolute mess. Anyways, so the lady who has the lot where the mobile home has been temporarily moved on to reached out and said to us, and then got eventually in contact with the rest of them in this, 10-way communication line. It's an absolute mess. But basically, she said that this mobile home has to be moved off the lot within 30 days, and that was about a week and a half ago. And if it's not moved off within 30 days, she's going to have filed to get it removed and forcefully evicted, basically, and it'll just get repoed somewhere else. And so when we found that out, we're like, okay, cool. Hey, we understand. We get it. Business is business. You got to empty your lot off. And so we gave her the information to the previous owner. She's been reaching out to him in contact, and then as well as the logistics and transport companies. And it sounds like, no promises, sounds like we're finally going to wind up getting that thing moved. So the only issue we have now, and we are pretty much figuring it out today, we have to get all the stuff removed, like trees and whatnot, knocked off the park, so we can get it moved in place. So theoretically, we could by next month have another mobile home actually on the property, and that'd be one of the nicer newer ones. So that might be another $600 there. So with that being said, we're slowly shrinking that debt. We're already halfway now done with the payments for the investors. So now we just have 3 more payments left, and then we will save $2,600, which is literally our entire budget. So with that being said, overall, not a bad spot. We're getting better, pretty much getting over the hump, and then everything just kind of goes smooth sailing like we always, like I said last time. Fall is pretty much where it gets really easy for us. So
just no more work.
No more grueling labor.
I'll deal with contracts, staring at paperwork, answering comments, streaming. I don't care. Just not that. Yeah.
So with that being said, that's pretty much our entire update video for this month. And if you guys like any of the stuff that we have to talk about, or because we did get feedback from one person asking if we could do a complete lease video, we may be doing that. If you guys want anything else, something like that, like a specific targeted video about whatever topic it is, we may be willing to do that if we can just kind of find some time to do so, and just put it in between the monthly reports and just have like another video for you guys to watch, or just some type of educational material for something like that. But outside of that, that's pretty much everything we got for you. So you're good to go, right?
I'm done.
Cool. Well, appreciate it again, guys. Thanks for checking in the update, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.